Welcome to this edition of World Business Commentary. My name is Belinda Boggs and my co-host is Kristen Ciccarello. Today's topic is return to office, commonly referred to as RTO. Lots of our largest global corporations have moved from encouraging RTO to enforcing it. An article in Fortune magazine in April of 2023 talks about several companies enforcing these policies. Two of the bigger name companies the article talks about are Bloomberg Financial and Apple Computer. Let's begin by talking about the Bloomberg story. A former Bloomberg employee named Kelly was forced to resign from her position with Bloomberg despite having a glowing performance review. She was unable to return to the office because she moved out of the New York area. So, Kristen, what's the deal with RTO? Was this fair of Bloomberg to force her out?
No, not at all. Let's talk about how we got here. When America transitioned away from being an agrarian society, people began working in factories away from their homes. The reason was simple: the tools, equipment, and materials needed to do the job were at the factory. When the number of office workers increased over the years, the same was true. In the past, people couldn't possibly have the computing power or connectivity necessary to work from home. Fast forward to today. After 2 years of working from home during a pandemic, people have realized that all of that has changed.
Absolutely. Today there doesn't seem to be a need to be in the office with regards to technology. But what about Bloomberg Financial? Didn't they lose business due to a work-from-home policy? Work from home always reduces productivity and inhibits creativity, right?
That's what people assumed, but where is the evidence for that? In the article you referenced, it states, quote, "During the pandemic, the company's revenue grew consistently, from $10 billion in 2019 to $12.2 billion in 2022. Unquote. Bloomberg as an organization did great during the pandemic. There is no evidence that productivity falls due to work-from-home policies. Employees that goof off at home are the same employees that would goof off at the office. If managers actually believe that when everyone is at the office, they're working hard at all times, I've got a bridge to sell them. By the way, for you out there watching on YouTube, if you like what you've heard so far, please subscribe to our channel and give us a big thumbs up.
Great. Now back to the article. The article does talk about what it calls a startling study that shows how work-from-home policies are inferior. Quote from the study: "When the pandemic shuttered the company's offices, the researchers found that engineers who previously worked in teams housed in the same building received 70% less feedback on their work than when they worked together in person. As office closures scattered staff, they helped each other less." Isn't this a good enough reason to enforce a return-to-work policy?
What does the research actually tell us? That during 2020 there was 70% less feedback given. Okay, but I have two things to say about that. First of all, that doesn't in any way prove that productivity was down. It may very well be possible that all of that feedback isn't necessary. Secondly, even if I grant the argument that more feedback is better, are they telling me that it isn't possible to design a work-from-home system in which the right amount of feedback is given?
All valid points. But, what would Bloomberg and other companies do with all of that office space if they didn't bring everyone back? Isn't that a good enough reason to bring everyone back to the office?
Good question. I hear that one a lot, but the argument doesn't hold water. If you suddenly discovered that you didn't need a bunch of equipment because a new technology could replace it at lower cost, would you decide to use it anyway just because you bought it previously? That wouldn't make sense. If you were starting a company today, how would you do it? Would you purchase or lease a bunch of office space, purchase equipment and supplies for each employee you plan to hire, and bring them all in the office? I really don't think you would. You're working under incorrect assumptions.
Assumptions?
Yes. You're assuming people need to be in the office to do their work. Today, even when they're in the office, they instant message each other much more than they talk face-to-face. Technology advancements have made running a company less expensive, and some companies want to keep spending money on office space and equipment they don't need because they assume productivity will improve. There's no evidence that productivity is correlated to proximity. And there's no evidence that there is a causal relationship between the two.
Wow. Those are some powerful arguments. If Bloomberg or another firm hired you to advise them, what would you tell them to do? What should they do with their extra real estate?
I would relish the opportunity to advise Bloomberg. My advice would be to keep the work-from-home policy that had worked for them and allow those employees who wish to be in the office to return. This will reduce the need for a bunch of office space. What should be done with it? Why not convert the office space into housing? We keep hearing that there is a shortage of housing. If work-from-home policies were to continue, there would be an overage of office space. Seems obvious to me. Another consideration is climate change. All of these large companies talk a good game. They talk about reducing their carbon footprint, and they talk about all the good that they are doing to protect the environment. They have a huge opportunity right under their noses. Working from home absolutely reduces their carbon footprint. Fewer commuters, less traffic, lower emissions. If they really believed in climate change, they would have already made the obvious decision to continue a work-from-home policy. Honestly, it's a no-brainer.
You're truly on fire today. It's tough to argue these points, but what about collaboration? I hear so much that collaboration isn't possible unless everyone is in the office.
That's nonsense. Again, there's no evidence to back up that argument. All of these tech companies that create tools for online collaboration must be going out of business, right? There are plenty of ways to collaborate virtually, and the long work-from-home period has proven this. My summation of all of this is that the only reason companies haven't gone fully into work-from-home policies is because they are stuck in an old paradigm. We've always worked in the office, so we should continue to do so. By that logic, we should have rejected computers, automobiles, airplanes, etc. The only other reason that companies might be enforcing RTO is because they have the office space and they need to fill it. That's a completely weak argument since it has nothing to do with company performance or productivity. There is cost savings in eliminating the space they don't need. If they were starting the business today, there's no way they would sink money into office space and equipment they don't need. The other thing, which I haven't yet mentioned, is that they might lose really good employees like Kelly, who are high performers but want or need to work from home.
Wow. That's great stuff. Well, you heard it here first. Bloomberg and other large firms are making a major mistake in firing otherwise high-performing employees in the name of RTO enforcement. Work-from-home policies will win out in the long run for 3 key reasons. 1. There is no valid reason to commute to an office to do something that can be done from home just as efficiently. 2. Companies can save money in the long run on office space. 3. Companies can contribute to solving both the climate change crisis and the housing crisis. What's not to like? Let's get with the program. That's our segment for today. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it.